You know, words are basically superpowers. They can start entirely new movements, change stubborn minds, and literally shape the way we view the world around us. So if you want to make your voice heard, you really need to know how to use them. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to master the tools that'll let you wield that power like an absolute pro. We're essentially building a mental tool belt for you so that you can construct arguments and ideas that are frankly impossible to ignore. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First up, the power of persuasion. Then, connecting the dots with analogy. After that, we'll explore the side-by-side contrast of juxtaposition, see exactly what happens when we use both tools together, and finally, wrap things up with education built on morality. All right, Section 1, the power of persuasion, wielding the power of words. If you think about it, your mind is kind of like a workshop. To build something really great, you need the right tools. The best authors out there don't just throw random words on a page, they use very specific, calculated rhetorical devices to make their writing crystal clear and deeply persuasive. Take a look at this ancient wisdom from Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. It's a great reminder that engaging with big ideas and learning these literary tools actually sharpens our own intellect. By studying how brilliant writers communicate, we sharpen our own ability to persuade. So let's go ahead and grab our very first tool. Section 2. Analogy. Connecting the dots. Building mental bridges. This first major device acts exactly like a bridge for your reader's brain. It is hands down one of the most effective ways to take something entirely unfamiliar and make it instantly recognizable. So what is it exactly? Well, an analogy is comparing two different things to make a complex or new idea easier to understand. Imagine your reader's mind is a little island of things they already know. Now you want to introduce a brand new, complex concept. Let's call that a separate, unexplored island. An analogy is the mental bridge that connects the familiar island they know to the unfamiliar island they don't quite understand yet. For example, if a science writer just lists off the functions of a microscopic, complex cell, your eyes are probably going to glaze over, right? But by comparing it to a familiar, organized system, like a factory, that abstract biology becomes instantly relatable. You immediately picture the nucleus as the boss, the mitochondria as the power plant. Suddenly, the complex becomes completely clear. A literal masterclass in analogy comes from Martin Luther King Jr. In his famous speeches, he compared the massive, abstract issue of racial injustice to a bad check that America had given its citizens of color, a check that had bounced.
Now, the crucial point here is why this worked so incredibly well. King didn't just rattle off statistics. By using the analogy of a bad check, he forced the audience to visualize something as complex as civil rights and fairness as a literal, everyday debt that absolutely must be paid. He made a massive social issue feel deeply personal and undeniable.
Which brings me to a quick question for you to ponder. Why might an author use an analogy instead of just stating a cold, hard fact? Think about it for a second. Facts fade, but powerful mental images, those stick. If you want your reader to remember what you wrote long after they put the text down, you've got to build them that bridge. Moving right along to Section 3, Juxtaposition. Side by side, the power of contrast. Imagine I'm speaking incredibly loudly, with massive energy, and then I suddenly drop my voice to a very quiet, serious whisper. That jarring difference, that is juxtaposition in action. By definition, juxtaposition is placing two contrasting ideas side by side to make a stronger point and make their differences incredibly obvious. It's basically about forcing two total opposites into the exact same room so that you cannot possibly ignore how totally different they are. To see how this builds your descriptive powers, imagine a journalist placing the phrase, "the calm of a quiet neighborhood," right next to "the chaos of city life." By slamming those two opposing environments together in the very same sentence, the contrast becomes dramatic and emotionally striking for the reader.
Charles Dickens famously mastered this technique. He opened his legendary novel, A Tale of Two Cities, with this exact quote. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. By opening with these extreme opposites, he instantly prepares his readers for a story that's heavily fueled by sharp, dramatic, inescapable conflicts.
So, here is your next challenge. Take a moment and mentally scan your own reading history. What's an example of juxtaposition from a book you've read? Can you think of two characters who are total opposites, or maybe two settings placed side by side to highlight how different they are? That right there is juxtaposition doing its job.
Section 4. Using both tools together, doubling the impact. Now, what's really interesting is what happens when a master writer decides to use both of these tools at the exact same time.
Take a dark analogy, like a nation without education is like a body without a soul. Then, immediately juxtapose it with another analogy, an educated nation thriving like a garden in spring. Look at what we just did. We've bridged the concept of education to life and death and placed the soulless body right next to the blooming garden. The impact is totally doubled.
Whenever you're reading an article for an assignment, I want you to act like a literary detective. Use this simple 3-step checklist. 1. Spot the comparison. Find the analogy. 2. Spot the stark difference. Find the juxtaposition. And 3. Step back and notice how combining them creates a highly powerful argument.
And finally, Section 5, Education Built on Morality, the ultimate tool. As we wrap up today, the source material actually bridges from these academic tools to tools for life. We started by talking about how iron sharpens iron, right? But the text raises a really compelling question. What good is a razor-sharp mind if it's not guided by a grounded moral compass?
The text points to Romans chapter 8, verses 6 through 7, which promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. In the Smart Academy philosophy we're exploring here, true peace isn't just about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being spiritually grounded so you actually know how to use that intelligence safely.
This brings us to the absolute core of the Godly Learners series philosophy. Education combined with morality equals peace of mind, but education without morality leads to hurt. The text argues that mastering these amazing rhetorical devices is potentially dangerous if your education lacks biblical morality, warning that a sharp mind without a moral compass can easily be used to manipulate or harm others.
So the material leaves us with this final, vital thought to walk away with. What is the point of being educated if you make choices that hurt yourself and the people around you? You now understand the tools to write persuasively and think critically. The big question the source leaves you with is, how will you choose to wield them? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep sharpening your mind, and I'll catch you next time.